and it allows us to have an image of Christ.
Legends about a miraculous image of
touched the face of Christ and then bore a miraculous image.
There is a message hidden under the Last Supper that could have gotten Leonardo da Vinci burned at the stake. 500 years of human eyes walked past it. None of them ever saw it. Last year, a forensic AI learned to read what Leonardo painted on top of his own handwriting, and what it pulled out from under the surface may force every Renaissance masterpiece on Earth to be rescanned.
Is it possible that Leonardo applied his mirror technique to hide secret messages in the Mona Lisa?
3:14 a.m. A forensic imaging lab outside Florence. Elena Rossi is 48 hours without sleep on the 19th pass of a multispectral scan when the system flags something it shouldn't be able to see. A cluster of marks under the painted robe of Christ. The curve, the spacing, the angle of the strokes. They don't match the brushwork around them. They match the backward script Leonardo da Vinci used in his private notebooks. The handwriting he only used when he was hiding something he could be killed for saying out loud. Confidence reading, 67%, then 71%, then 78%. By sunrise, 3 independent labs on 2 continents will be staring at the same result. Leonardo da Vinci didn't paint the Last Supper. He encrypted it. The story of how it got there starts in 1495, and with a decision that historians spent 500 years calling Leonardo's biggest mistake. Every fresco painter in Italy worked the same way. Wet plaster, pigment laid into it fast before the surface dried. Once it set, the paint and the wall fused chemically. One layer, permanent. Nothing could ever be added later, and nothing could be hidden underneath. The technique was called buon fresco. It was how the Sistine Chapel ceiling was painted. It was how the Vatican wanted Christian art preserved for centuries. Leonardo refused. He invented his own method instead. Oil and tempera applied to dry plaster. Tempera forte. Within 20 years of him finishing, the mural was already flaking. Within 50, the verdict was settled across Italy. The most meticulous artist of the Renaissance had somehow botched the most important commission of his life. Except, the verdict ignores who Leonardo actually was. This is the man who dissected human cadavers by candlelight to draw veins correctly. The man who designed working flying machines 4 centuries before powered flight. The man who, by his own letters, refused to paint a single feather on a bird until he understood the physics of how the bird used the feather to steer. Why would he, of all people, choose a technique he knew would eat his own work? He wouldn't. Not unless the eating was the point. A buon fresco can't lie. The pigment locks into the plaster as a single bonded surface. There's no second layer. There's nowhere to put a secret. A tempera forte mural is built differently. The layers go down dry. Each one sits on top of the last, opaque, hiding whatever's underneath. So the multispectral imaging didn't scan the painting's surface. It scanned through it. Frequency by frequency, the system read pigment ghosts trapped in the lower layers, marks no human restorer could see in 500 years of looking. What it found was a key, not a metaphorical one. Leonardo had built something into the painting that pointed to where the rest of the message was buried. He'd left instructions. The neural network Rossi's lab had built wasn't a generic art scanner. They'd trained it on something narrower. Thousands of pages from Leonardo's private notebooks, the Codex Arundel, the Codex Atlanticus, backward script, coded shorthand, the geometric diagram scholars are still arguing about today. The system didn't know what the Last Supper was supposed to look like. It only knew what Leonardo's mind looked like when he was trying not to be understood. On day 19, the program stopped looking at the paint and started looking at the table. Look at where the bread rolls are sitting. Look at the angle of every disciple's hands. For 5 centuries, art historians read those placements as natural. Realistic dinner. Realistic argument. Hands moved because the apostles were upset. Bread sat where bread sat. The model read the placements differently. Bread loaves and apostle fingers, taken together, formed a coordinate grid, a geometric cipher hidden inside a religious painting. Steganography, built into the most photographed mural in human history, sitting in plain sight for half a millennium. The bread wasn't food, it was a map. Every position pointed to a specific dark patch of the composition: the shadow behind Christ, the deep folds of a particular robe, the corners under the table. Exactly the zones nobody would think to scan. Exactly the zones least likely to be touched by a restorer's brush. The painting was telling the AI where to look. In every zone the cipher pointed at, mirror-script started rising out of the multispectral data. Reversed letters in archaic Tuscan. Backwards handwriting at the same pressure and angle Leonardo used in his most private journals. The Last Supper was not just hiding a message, it was telling you how to find it. That is one man, in 1495, building two paintings on top of each other. One for the priests who would eat under it. One for the machine that wouldn't exist for another 500 years. 3 independent labs ran the geometry through their own machine vision pattern recognition systems. MIT, Amsterdam, Kyoto. All 3 came back the same way. The cipher is real. The script is real. The placement is mathematically impossible to call coincidence. What it adds up to is a covert document, in plain sight, on the wall of a Catholic monastery, commissioned by one of the most dangerous men in Italy. The text didn't appear in random spots across the wall. It spiraled, outward from the right hand of Christ, following a curve that mapped almost exactly to the golden ratio, the proportional sequence Leonardo built into half his major work. The script wasn't decoration, it was structural. The first translated line came from the area directly behind Jesus. From archaic Florentine it reads, "Truth belongs not to saints, but to those who seek it in silence." The second emerged near Thomas, the apostle who in Scripture refuses to believe in the resurrection until he physically puts his hand inside the wounds. Only the man who doubted touched the wound. The others believed without seeing. That is not faith. That is obedience. A third surfaced near the figure of Judas, and it doesn't read the way Scripture reads. In Leonardo's version, the betrayal is reframed completely. Judas sold him for 30 coins. The rest sold him for silence. And then the line that quieted the lab. From the lower edge of the mural, layered beneath multiple coats of pigment near the disciples' feet, "All faith fades when light reveals the hand of man." In 1495, that sentence was a death warrant. Leonardo was not working in a free society. He was on contract to Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, whose grip on power depended on staying close to Rome. The Inquisition was active, the censorship apparatus was working. Men were being interrogated, silenced, and executed for ideas significantly less explicit than the ones now showing up under his pigment. The Sforza Commission was not a private patronage. It was a leash. If a single one of those phrases had been seen by the wrong cardinal, if a curious monk had scratched the wrong patch of plaster, Leonardo would have been arrested, tortured, burned alive in a public square in Milan while the city watched. He understood that, down to the brushstroke. He hid the manifesto anyway. The strange part is not that he hid it. It is that he hid it for nobody alive in 1495. Leonardo knew, with mathematical certainty, that no eye in his century could read those layers. The technology to look between layers of pigment did not exist. It would not exist for another 500 years. Whatever he was writing for a reader he was guaranteed never to meet. He was writing to the future, and not the near future. The Enlightenment, Voltaire, Hume, Kant, Diderot, does not reach Europe for another 2.5 centuries. Leonardo was setting down its core argument 250 years before the men who would formalize it were born. He wasn't a step ahead of his contemporaries. He was operating in an intellectual century that didn't exist yet. The vocabulary to describe what he was thinking would not be invented until long after his bones had turned to dust. Picture him on a wooden scaffold in a cold refectory in Milan, brush in hand, lamp burning low against damp plaster, painting over his own handwriting, knowing, certain, that nobody he would ever meet, nobody who would attend his funeral, nobody who would walk past that wall for the next 500 years would understand what he had just done. He sealed a bottle and threw it into a 500-year ocean. He bet, on faith alone, that someone in some unimaginable century would invent the right machine and pull it back out. That machine arrived in 2024, which raises a question the Louvre is going to have to answer eventually. If the Last Supper was carrying a hidden manifesto for 500 years, what is hiding inside the Mona Lisa, the Virgin of the Rocks, the Adoration of the Magi, the Lady with an Ermine? Every canvas Leonardo touched is now under suspicion. Every dark area, every shadowed corner, every layer of underdrawing buried beneath the surface paint is suddenly worth scanning again. And Leonardo isn't necessarily the only suspect. If a Renaissance master was willing to encrypt a heretical argument inside the most public religious commission of his career, there is no obvious reason his contemporaries weren't doing some version of the same thing. Michelangelo, Raphael, Botticelli, the Sistine Chapel ceiling, the walls of the Vatican itself. Half the canvases hanging in European museums right now have never been scanned through this kind of imaging. We thought we were looking at 500 years of devotion. We may have been looking at 500 years of camouflage. So here's the call. The Mona Lisa has never been scanned this way. Neither has the Sistine Chapel. Neither has half the Louvre. Type decode it if you want the Mona Lisa cracked open next. Type leave it buried if you think some walls should stay shut. Whichever side wins, that's the wall we open next. If you stayed with this for 10 minutes, you already know whether you can let it go. Hidden Latitude is where we keep pulling threads other channels won't touch. There's another case loading right now. Leonardo painted a letter into the most sacred wall in Milan. 500 years of monks ate dinner under it. 500 years of scholars walked past it. Then a machine learned to read his handwriting. The man's been waiting for that machine since 1495. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.